Welcome back, everyone. Thanks ever so much for joining us again here on Board Shorts. My name is Ben. I'm the Managing Director of Agency Express, and another fantastic opportunity today to speak to one of our lovely franchisees. I'm joined in the booth, or rather remotely from the booth, by the lovely Richard, our franchisee in Leicestershire. Rich, it's lovely to see you. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. Not too bad. Busy.
Good. That's what I'd like to hear. You was just saying before we came on air that you've just come off a shift. How many boards did you do today? How many visits?
About 45.
Oh, nice, easy, light day for you today then.
Early finish to come and see you see.
I see, that's what it is. Okay. So we should probably also clarify to everyone that it's about 2:00 in the afternoon. So Rich again showing the efficiencies of Agency Express Leicestershire. So these chats with the Franchise Network are a great opportunity for people to understand a bit more about what it's like being an Agency Express franchisee and what that process is like joining us and going through the whole steps of becoming a business owner, which I think is pretty daunting for anyone. So I'm going to start with an easy question for you today, Rich. How did it all start?
So I was on a word that everyone came to realise called furlough in 2020.
About back to the COVID period.
Yeah,
okay,
sure.
Good.
So I was working for a third-party logistics company, and yeah, I was off work, and in the back of my mind for some time I'd had the thought that I'd like to be self-employed, like a lot of people are, but I'd never taken that jump. So while I'm trying to remember now, I had 13 weeks off work. It gave me a bit of time, around playing golf and homeschooling to investigate it further. I had a few ideas of things that I could maybe do, but when I explored them, they weren't financially viable. And then I came across the way I came across Agency Express was going through businesses for sale online. I'd Googled businesses for sale, and that was how I first came across Agency Express. It wasn't actually this particular territory that I've got that was flashing up as for sale, but it was just Agency Express, the general franchise thing. And that was when I got in touch with yourself. So that was summer 2020.
And had you considered franchising before then? Did you know what it was when you first came across it, or was it all kind of brand new at that stage?
I guess I was aware of franchising, but I think when I thought about franchising, I thought about places like KFC and Subway. Yeah. And that sort of thing. So I hadn't explored it at all,
You're completely green. I think it's really interesting, isn't it, that people often, they do think about either it tends to be fast food, so McDonald's, KFC, Costa, Starbucks, or it'll be car dealerships. But there's so many businesses out there that are franchised that people don't even realize. So you made first contact. I remember speaking to you. You were sat in your kitchen. What was it? What made you get in touch? What was it about Agency Express that you liked?
Well, so when I first looked into Agency Express, I was looking at a lot of franchise because the thing, the light bulb goes off in your head of, franchising, that could be an idea. So you look through, you'll know yourself. You can go through websites and just see hundreds of different franchises, and there's a lot of scope there for lots of things. In my mind, there's things that seem too good to be true, etc. And so what appealed to me about Agency Express was van-based franchise. It was clearly going to be work. You know what I mean? And so that gave me a lot of confidence that it wasn't going. You weren't selling me whatever they call it. I don't really know, but a fake idea is how I would describe it. Of work
snake oil,
3 days a week and earn outrageous amounts of money. And one of the great things about, I know you'd like to monitor the onboarding process and things like that, but Agency Express was never sold to me as anything other than what it was. I think I remember you saying, "I won't make you a millionaire," and other people probably would have. That was refreshing and confidence building.
Good. I mean, you've got to get into the truth of it, haven't you? I think it's so easy for any franchise or any franchise business to only tell you the good stuff. I often get asked, what's the question I've forgotten to ask you? Or what's the one thing I should have asked? And I always say, you haven't asked me about the bad things. What's bad?
Yeah.
But we'll come on to that in a minute, because that's a question I want to ask you. It's always fascinating to ask every franchisee, what's the thing they like the least? So, okay, so you start going through that due diligence process. We we introduced you to other franchisees, and then you went through the funding process as well, didn't you? Which was, I think, another step that people can be quite nervous about, is applying for
Yeah.
business funding. So how was that for you?
Well, it was a challenge because of when it was a big deal because we were in the
Mm,
middle of lockdowns, etc. The banks weren't really playing a lot of ball. I had a certain amount of money to put in, but I didn't have lots and lots of money to put in. So I had to borrow quite a substantial percentage. There was support from yourself. I mean, initially, you put me in touch with well-known high street banks that you work with, which I would imagine would be a lot easier now than it was 6 years ago. I ended up with
yeah.
a startup funding company, which has worked absolutely fine.
And then we got you underway. Now you have to refresh my memory. When we did your training course, were we still under COVID restrictions then? Was it still masks on in the training room, or were we back released into the wild again? I can't remember.
Yeah, it was masks on it. Yeah, it was. It was no, it was masks on in the changing room, masks on in the van, all of that. Everywhere it was sort of that in between period. So if you remember, we had lockdown until sort of late summer, and then we had another one around December time, Christmas, wasn't it? And I was in between, so I did training in like the September, late
Yeah.
September. So yeah, it was all washing your hands and masks on, etc., etc. But it was good. There was me and another guy, and yeah, we had a great week. Good evenings after we've had the days working, pouring over a pint and discussing what we were
Yeah.
going to be doing and what we'd done in the day previous as well. So it was good because you get to build up a bit of camaraderie.
Yeah, absolutely. What was the early period like? So you got launched, you completed your training course, you're in your new van, you're back home, and you're biting your fingernails. What was that early few months like for you?
Yeah, so I got launched in the training course, picked up my van, then I went on holiday for a week, and then I
Good idea.
started the week after, and I was in quite a good position because I had quite a long build up actually. I was in touch with the chap who I bought from, and I did a few like Saturdays and a few like evenings and stuff, doing little bits and pieces for him in terms of slip changes and retrievals, things that I could do. So that gave me quite a good standing
Hmm.
for my first few days. The first few days are it, you know are enlightening. There's the bits of picking up your stock, sorting out your own place of work, your unit, if you're going to be using that sort of thing. I had a couple of shipping containers that I was working out of at the time,
Hmm.
and yeah, all of that is quite can be overwhelming. Then I went out on my
Mm.
first day and whizzed round. I think I remember ringing you up about 3 o'clock in the afternoon saying, "Oh, what's the big deal?" when I'd done it. And then on day two, I think I was out for about 12 hours. And I was like,
Yeah,
"Oh, this is what it's all about."
that's the truth. Yeah,
Just
there
had
we
two
go.
completely
Okay.
different days. But then
Yeah.
going through the first few months, etc. Yeah, I have to say I got on quite well. I mean, the, starting out off just going into winter, I think you get the best of the ground.
Mm.
The weather and stuff like that, because it can be a bit a grind. Height of summer, the summers that we get these days, posts in the ground, making sure you're getting good fixings with your posts, etc. So yeah, I think those first few months were generally quite good for me. My first few years, I moved. We may come on to, but I progressed quite quickly, didn't I, in terms of
You did. Yeah.
business gained and you know territories, etc.
And probably worth coming on to, because that's something which naturally you've taken us on to that point, that you went from not just starting a new business and running that franchise territory, you then took on a second territory and you
Yeah,
grew exponentially from that point. So talk me through that transition, because that must have been quite a big jump to go from running one territory, set of customers, understanding that region, to
mm.
just bolting another one on and having to, find the capacity to do that.
Yeah, I have to say that point I was quite fortunate. The same day in this was stars aligning moment. The same day as I had an initial conversation with James at head office, I had a conversation with James asking about, oh, would I be interested in taking on this second territory? Literally half an hour before I had that call off James, I had a phone call off a chap who worked for a competitor at the time asking to see if I
Right.
had any jobs going. And it
Okay.
was unbelievable how that happened. So, of course, you're taking on new territory. You're not going to do two territories, one van, one mat. Just an impossibility. So that was what, we had to quickly get Chris on board, who's still with me today, get a van, which head office you guys supported me with, and then it was all systems go. I had to move storage because 2 shipping containers weren't going to cut it anymore, so I had to find new storage units. But then you've got to move everything into it, and so I had to move all of my stuff into the storage, but then move all the stuff from the new territory, which was about 45-minute drive away from where I am, also into the new storage. So, I think over 3 or 4 weekends, it ended up being it took that long to get everything completely sorted out.
And how was it for you personally? How did you cope with the increased mental requirement of you? That must have been quite a challenge, just on the sort of the
Yeah, well,
logistics of
that's
everything and understanding all of that.
I've found it. There's 2 different things there. There's that moment when you take it all on board, which I don't look back on as being too difficult. It's exciting, it's new, and it's all hands on deck. What
Mm.
you do have, there's an ongoing mental thing, and so I've ran 2 territories for nearly 3 years now, maybe a bit longer, I can't remember. But everything doubles up. So of
Mm.
course the workload doubles up, but and that's fine. But the number of phone calls that you'll get off agents doubles up. The number of phone calls that you'll field off you guys at head office doubles up. The number of emails you get a day doubles up, and because you're running double the amount of vans, double the amount of issues that happen with your van, you know, and you're also into the world of you've got staff, so dealing with staff holidays, staff sickness, etc., etc. And also you have to deal with the fact that a member of staff will work in a different way to it's what I find the most difficult. They will work in a different way to what you work. Despite them being trained by you, they will then be out on their own every day and they will develop their own working methods. But some of those methods won't be as good as what you do. And,
Yeah.
um,
And that's
yeah,
fundamentally why we franchise, isn't it? Because it gives the commitment that the franchisee is going to give to the business is always going to be that much better than an employee, because it's you who benefits from it, and that's something that's very hard to instill into a employee, even if they're trained by the guy who really knows what he's doing. It's a
yeah.
challenge. Okay. So you run into businesses, you're now a successful business magnate, try and put my teeth back in. You are Mr. Leicestershire, brackets Warwickshire. What's next? What do you want for the next few years? Where are we going?
If you'd have asked me that when I started 6 years ago, 5 years ago, I would have had and I did have the plan, which is largely, there's been bumps in the road, but I'm largely where I wanted to be. So that's a great thing. If you ask me where I'm in 5 years, I don't know. And a lot of that depends on external things away from this
Mm,
business.
yeah.
Where it is currently is somewhere where I'm really comfortable with and it ticks along. That makes it sound easier than it is.
No, it's often overlooked, I think, isn't it? That sometimes a business that's working for you as well as working is actually what most people want. That kind of, once you get into that rhythm, that groove, and everything is just working, it's a really nice place to be. Tell me, what's the best thing? What's the best thing about being part of Agency Express?
The best thing is in it. I hate to sort of go over old ground, but it is about um, the opportunity to be your own boss and and move that business. You are your own business owner, and you have the ability to move that and grow that in a direction that you want to a level that you want to. So I talk about having 2 franchises and multiple vans and the potential to grow again. But if you want to be one man, one van, that's still perfectly feasible and encouraged. There's guys that have come into the business since me who have grown even quicker than I did and have absolutely smashing it, and fair play to them guys as well. The best thing is to be able to look at yourself in the mirror at the end of the day and know that you've done a day's work. Actually, what I did before, worked in logistics before, and I was an office boy, and in many respects, I'd come home from work in a day, and I wouldn't have been able to have done that in a past life.
Hmm.
When you're employed, you can sort of rely on other people a bit more. To pick up your slack.
Being in control. That's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, you could be a bit happier with yourself.
Okay. And the worst thing, what's the thing you hate the most? Whenever it comes across your dashboard, what's the worst thing?
I can tell you about this week if you want.
Go on then. Let's hear that.
The
Go
worst,
on.
the worst thing is the ability for things that are out of your control to smack you in the face. Next week, I currently employ 2 people, so I've got 3 vans on the road, 2 full-time drivers, and then me in the 3rd van. One of my guys is on a week's holiday next week, so our plan for this week is to absolutely smash it, get the job list down as much as we possibly can. I've got a guy that will work one day at the weekend. I'll work one day at the weekend as well. Get that job list down as much as we can. And then if it builds up somewhat next week, we're not in too bad a position for the week after when Chris gets back off holiday.
Yep. Makes
So
sense.
that's the plan. Monday, van breaks down, alternator's gone. From one of my drivers. And he's in Rugby. I just got into Warwick. And so AA, yeah, he just thought it was a flat battery at the time. But AA man says, no, your alternator's not charging up the battery. So it started up, he needs to get into garage as quick as possible. So I says, right, I'll meet you at the garage. That's in Coventry. So I went and met there. And then I brought him back home. We did a few jobs that we could get done on the way back, that sort of thing, but dropped him off. And really, we lost about half a day each, me and my driver, on Monday. So already we're behind the 8 ball. Get a hire vehicle sorted out. It's cost. So those sort of things hurt. A hire vehicle sorted out. Yada, yada, yada. Work yesterday. Today, he's got it sends me a photo, a screw in the driver's side rear tyre of his hire vehicle. You can't make it up.
You
So,
can't.
yeah, these are the things that are sent to dryers. And you have to let that water off ducts back in many respects. But and while it's happening is probably better than a few days down the line when you start to get the agents on the phone of, boss are taking a long time, this, that, and the other. And, the day that he broke down, he had 2 key safe jobs on as well, which had been booked in. Which then
Perfect.
to ring up those people, ring up key safe, tell them we're not going to get to these bookings that we've made. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've often described what we do and what franchisees do when I get asked by someone who's not in our world, what do we do for a living? So we spin plates.
Yeah.
That's the job of running a business, isn't it? You've just got to keep the plate spinning. And then when this one starts to wobble, then you run over here and you spin this one, because ultimately it's just maintaining that position is what we're always trying to do. Okay. Last question then. What would you say to someone considering joining Agency Express or considering getting into franchising in general?
Well, I would say I would encourage them to look into the why. Why do they want to do this? Because everyone's got a different reason. I think it's a fantastic company to work with. I think it's branching out on your own is a brilliant thing to do. Do you do diligence? Going back to what you said earlier about how when you say, "Was there anything you forgot to ask me?" Oh yeah, you forgot to ask about any of the bad stuff. That's really important, because you go into it when you first go into it, and of course you don't ask about the bad stuff because you're enthusiastic about it. You don't want, subconsciously, you don't want there to be bad stuff to ask about. You know what I mean? So yeah, do you do diligence? Be prepared that you will do a day's work. It can be tough when it's bucketing it down a rain, etc., etc. But yeah, I wouldn't dissuade anyone from doing it at all if you're in a position to do so. I think it could be the making of people.
Well, That's what a great place to end. Rich, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate you joining us today and sharing your experiences. For everyone else, thank you ever so much for watching again, for joining us on Board Shorts, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Thanks, Rich.